So recently I rewatched two famous historical action films. Those being Ridley Scott's Gladiator from the year 2000 and 300 from Zack Snyder, which came out in 2006. In my opinion, two awesome and engaging movies that the longer I dwell on it, the more similarities that they appear to have. Both take place in historical settings and backdrops. They both have gruff, battle-hardened male protagonists who end up dying in the end and fulfilling their purpose in the process. Both those characters lead an extremely loyal and devoted army. Both movies have themes of betrayal, freedom and glory. And of course, both of them were given a poxy 2 out of 4 stars by the crappiest of critics, the man himself, Roger Ebert. Those are just some of the similarities off the top of my head, but I can pretty much guarantee that there's a lot more that I didn't list off here. But as many similarities as I can list off, there's also an equal amount of striking differences. Most notably how the historical setting is used. In Gladiator, Ridley Scott told a fantastical story but wanted to keep it grounded and as realistic as possible, especially the setting, even hiring historians to help him create an accurate Roman atmosphere. Granted, he took what they had to say liberally at times, but still, the point stands. On the other hand, 300 is based on a real story but greatly exaggerates and glorifies the events and actions that took place. Zack Snyder obviously went over the top to say the least, with an insanely large Persian horde which includes super mutants, massive war elephants and rhinos. Yet ludicrous is putting it lightly. Still, like I said, both of these flicks are freaking amazing, and so I thought it would be a little fun video idea to compare the two on 5 different categories, so we can all get a definitive answer on which of these cinema titans is truly the better movie. I'm going to be comparing these two based on the plot, action/cinematography, quotability, the ending, and of course, the impact it had as a whole. Without further ado, let's start with the plot. Gladiator is set in ancient Rome as we follow his Roman general Maximus Decimus Meridius, who has just led the Roman army to yet another victory, this time against the Germanic tribes of Germania. After this W of epic proportions, he has a conversation with the Emperor, Marcus Aurelius. The Emperor seems to harbour some level of regret about his rule, and muses over his legacy as a Caesar, and the impact he'll leave behind after he passes away. He explains to Maximus that his own son Commodus is unfit to rule over Rome because he's, quote, not a moral man.
Commodus is not a moral man. You have known that since you were young.
Marcus drops a huge bomb of a request, asking Maximus straight up, "Bro, you need to become an emperor and put a stop to all the political corruption that has become rampant in Rome." I don't think that's how it sounds like, but still, we're going with that. To which Maximus, being a humble man, respectfully declines. Hearing of the Emperor's plan enrages Commodus, who in a fit of blind childish rage and tearful jealous love, murders his dad. He proclaims himself to be the new Emperor, asking Maximus for his loyalty, but unfortunately he refuses. In response, he deems Maximus a traitor and orders his family to be killed. Long story short, Maximus is made a slave and entered into the gladiatorial scene, eventually making his way to the Colosseum in Rome, which has been revived by Commodus to distract the citizens of the ongoing problems and issues that are rampant in Rome. If you entertain the populace with violence, blood, guts, gore and glory, they'll soon forget all their problems. And someone's at my door.
You'll bring them death, and they will love him for it.
To be fair though, who doesn't love blood, guts, gore and glory? I mean, come on. I mean, say what you want about the Romans, but they had good taste. Anyway, this brings us to 300, which takes place during ancient Greece. The film begins narrating the harsh and brutal upbringing that Spartan men have to go through. Sort of like a rite of passage, you could say. Eventually we discover that the Spartan child seen in the intro is none other than Leonidas himself, the current king of Sparta. One day a Persian herald arrives in Sparta with a message from Xerxes, the emperor of Persia, or something like that, demanding earth and water as a token of submission to his rule. Of course, we all know what happens next.
This is Sparta.
Leonidas pays a visit to the E4s, deformed old magistrates who hold ultimate judicial, legislative and military power. During this meeting he proposes a plan to drive back the numerically superior Persians, but due to some traditional BS they won't allow him to continue with the strategy. Surprise surprise, it turns out they have been bought out and paid for by Xerxes, so they can be taken over with little to no resistance.
And when Sparta burns, you shall bathe in gold.
Leonidas is understandably super pissed at this outcome. I mean, you can't really blame him, can you? But because the E4s are in a higher position of power, he has to do what they say. All seems lost. However, after a conversation with his wife, he devises a loophole to get around this obstacle, gathering 300 of his best soldiers under the guise of his personal bodyguards. He marches onwards towards the invading Persians to put a stop to the incoming threat, thus securing Spartan freedom. That basically sums up both 300 and Gladiator. Both have undeniably intriguing plots and premises that the audience would naturally want to see through to the end. The two of them share very similar narrative themes, like honour, duty, freedom, revenge, and of course brotherhood, among countless other examples. When it comes to brotherhood though specifically, I think this is one aspect that 300 absolutely nails, and many people look over. 300 has one of the strongest showings of loyalty and kinship between men that I've ever seen in a movie, period. You really get a sense that these 300 soldiers are willing to fight and stare death in the face together, and this is further emphasised in battle with the phalanx formation used in the film. However, if we're talking about narrative theming overall, Gladiator does a way better job, particularly with its portrayal of duty, honour and revenge, which is no better seen than with Maximus himself. Speaking of, I find Maximus to be a far more compelling protagonist than Leonidas, perhaps partially due to the fact that Maximus is a man who's lost everything, whereas Leonidas is a man who could potentially lose everything, if he doesn't stay headstrong of course. Mainly though, it's because Maximus actually goes through an arc. He starts out a proud leading general of the powerful Roman army, only to have his family barbarically killed and crucified, whilst being stripped of his title and reduced to a mere slave, by a man he once considered an ally. Maximus has no purpose. He loses his will to live. It's only when the possibility arises of being able to confront Commodus face to face that his purpose is renewed. He starts deliberately disobeying the orders in the Colosseum and intentionally rallying the crowd to his side. All a demonstration of resistance, all done for the ultimate goal of revenge, and freeing Rome from Commodus's negligence. In comparison, Leonidas seems to have his head screwed on from the start up until the end of the movie's running time. He's the embodiment of a perfect Spartan warrior, who shows no weakness and no mercy. That's how he became king after all. Leonidas' intentions and as a character just doesn't develop or go through any sort of arc like Maximus does. Finally, the penultimate deciding factor for me in this category was the primary antagonist. If you've seen both movies, then I'm pretty sure everyone's going to agree with me that Commodus is like worlds better than Xerxes. It's not even a competition. Look, I'm not saying Xerxes is a horrible villain or anything. I mean, whenever he's on screen, he's a very demanding presence. I mean, you can see that perfectly when he's being carried on that giant pyramid by his horde of slaves in a very, godlike manner and all that. However, to put it simply, he's just a mustache twirler if you really narrow it down. He's a narcissistic, evil piece of garbage who has a god complex. Xerxes is evil for the sake of being evil, which isn't a bad thing mind you, but Commodus is much more layered and interesting of a character. Commodus has a vision for Rome, and views its people as nothing more than playthings. Even though he has this Machiavellian plot and scheme for Rome, he's anything but a mastermind, often acting irrationally out of impulse like a spoiled child. Throughout the film he struggles with his own motivations and actions, which can be no better seen than with his conflicting feelings he has towards his father and hesitant but creepy lust for his sister. As I said, both films have great plots, but when it comes down to it, Gladiator overwhelmingly comes out on top, so the point goes to Gladiator. These two historical action titans have different approaches to the way it handles the fight choreography, and I think this category comes down to opinion even more so than the others. For starters, Gladiator is predominantly shot practically with real sets, props and animals, with obviously some obvious exceptions like when Maximus stabs a tiger, obviously a prosthetic is used in its place because, I mean, can't kill an animal on the screen, bro, that's just not on. On the other hand, 300 is shot almost entirely on blue screen, relying heavily on CGI. Gladiator goes for more realistic gladiatorial action sequences, with fights recorded on handheld cameras for extra immersion. Meanwhile, 300 goes the exact opposite route, shooting on cameras attached to dollies and recording at 100 frames per second so Zack Snyder can implement his fetish of slowing down and speeding up the action, or speed ramping as it's professionally called. While Gladiator's Colosseum battles are immersive and awesome, I think 300's insane over-the-top action slightly edges over Gladiator. But they're not supposed to be, and in my opinion, the speed ramping and fight choreography is done flawlessly, and makes for some truly epic, jaw-dropping and most importantly, violent action scenes. 300 takes the W for this category. Despite being the simplest category, it was the hardest for me to pick a definitive winner. I mean, it's really hard to gauge how quotable a movie is, especially when everyone in my circles hasn't seen either of them. Uncultured swines. To be honest, I don't keep track of how many times a 300 or Gladiator quote pops in my head, but I would say it's about equal if I had to guess. Gladiator has really moving and philosophical dialogue, whereas 300 goes with a more cheesy, epic style and tone. I picked out a few memorable and awesome lines from both movies, so I'll let you decide which is superior.
No retreat. No surrender. That is Spartan law. And by Spartan law, we will stand and fight.
You find yourself alone, riding in green fields with the sun on your face. Do not be troubled, for you are in Elysium, and you're already dead!
Ready your breakfast and eat hearty. But tonight, we dine in hell! I would put to the whole world if you would only love me. It's an honor to die at your side. It's an honor to have lived at yours.
Father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance, in this life or the next.
In my opinion, they're both very quotable films, so I'm going to make this a draw. On to the next category. Okay, let's compare the impact both of these movies had both in the movie industry and the populace at large. So how did they do at the box office? Well, Gladiator on a $103 million budget made $503 million worldwide, effectively making $400 million back, which I'm pretty sure is a good return on investment, you know? I'm pretty sure, if I had to guess. 300 on a $65 million budget made $456 million worldwide, earning $391 million back. As you can see, both movies did well at the box office, but Gladiator narrowly edges it out. When it comes to reception, Gladiator received a 79% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes and an 8.5 out of 10 on IMDb. In comparison, 300 got a 61% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 7.6 out of 10 on IMDb. So yeah, both decently rated, but again, Gladiator slightly, just ever so slightly comes out on top. Now here are just some of the awards and nominations that Gladiator got from organisations like the Golden Globe and the Academy Awards, etc, etc. But what about 300? Well, it did win the Best Fight Award at the MTV Movie Awards in 2007. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And oh, and don't forget, 300 also won IGN's Movie of the Year in 2007. Epic. Okay, to be fair, 300 did spawn the "This is Sparta" meme that I'm pretty sure everyone in my generation who grew up watching YouTube poops knows about.
This is Sparta!
Unfortunately, that's not enough to beat out Gladiator, so the point goes to Russell Crowe's blubbergumptious belly. So now we're on the final category. Will Gladiator take the ultimate victory? Or will 300 even the odds and lead to a draw? Let's find out. Like I said in the intro, 300 and Gladiator share many similarities, one of them being the ending where both protagonists die in combat, fulfilling their purpose in the process. In Gladiator's case, Maximus is poisoned by Commodus just before their final battle in the Colosseum, ensuring his victory. Fortunately, Maximus is able to overcome this disadvantage and kill Commodus once and for all, ending his despotic short-lived reign and enacting his revenge. When it comes to 300, Leonidas and his soldiers get cornered and ambushed by the Persians. After refusing to kneel one last time, they all fight honourably until the last man. Before dying, Leonidas throws a spear at Xerxes, wounding him, proving that he is no god. Leonidas' death and the sacrifice of both him and the 300 soldiers goes on to influence the army of 10,000 Spartans, who then go on to fight the Persians. Gladiator's ending is beautiful. I'm not sure if that's the first word many would use, but I say that because Maximus' blurry vision combined with his fading in and out between reality and the fields of Elysium, a heaven-like place that has been referenced throughout the entire movie, it's just I love it. Maximus finally gets to rest, knowing that his death wasn't in vain, and Rome has a chance of a brighter future. The fact that this man's idea of heaven is just to simply be at home with his family in peace, like, it just brings a tear to my eye every time. Combine that with the music and the crowd maintaining respectful silence as his body is carried away, I mean, it's pretty much perfect in my opinion. In comparison, 300 had a decent ending, but it didn't really have as much impact on me as Gladiator did. I mean, don't get me wrong, the camaraderie between Leonidas and his men, even in death, was inspirational and all, but I was kind of disappointed that we never got to see what happened in the final battle with 10,000 Spartans. We don't even get a glimpse of the battle, their victory, or Xerxes' defeat whatsoever, which makes it a lot less satisfying. In the end, I have to give the point to Gladiator. And with that, there we have it, folks. Gladiator takes the win. Deservedly so, as it is a fantastic freaking film. Though that is not to say 300 is any less amazing. I mean, let's be honest, who really cares about some poxy ass awards at the end of the day? That's about it for this video. Like if you liked, dislike if you disliked, subscribe for more quality content, and I'll see you guys next time.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried. Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.